You know, I'm going to college to become an engineer. And my freshman year of college, I had a lab where we did what's called expendable mold casting. What you do is you take a foam block, ours was about yay big, there give about, give or take. You use hot wires to cut a shape into that foam block. You pack black sand around the foam block, and you pour molten metal down into it. We used aluminum. The molten metal melts the styrofoam. The styrofoam leaves behind a cavity, and the metal fills up the cavity, leaving behind a perfect casting of whatever you cut into that block. My old roommate cast a big letter J because his girlfriend's name was Julie and he was kind of whipped. This one girl in our class who wasn't all that bright cast a shot glass, and the teacher saw it, he was like, "You don't want to drink out of that." She said, "Oh, it's a candle holder." It wasn't a candle holder. I made these batarangs from the Dark Knight trilogy because I love Batman. I grew up watching the animated series and Batman Beyond. In fact, the first movie that I ever saw all the way through was Batman Forever. Take from that what you will. The reason why I'm telling you all this is so that maybe you can understand why I get so disappointed when companies like Chemco take the Batman franchise and wipe their ass with it. Anyway, I have called you here today to show you a game called Batman Dark Tomorrow. One of the worst, most offensive pieces of crap that I have ever played. Everything about this game sucks, and I don't even know where to start with it. The game starts out with a cinematic depicting two people in a shadowy room discussing diabolical, evil things. Yeah, I'll give you 3 guesses who the villain of this whole thing turns out to be.
He will try to stop you.
Yes, Crazy Quilt is the name of a real Batman villain. After that, you take down 3 kids who've robbed a convenience store. Really, I have to put up with the freaking bat cuffs again? After you thrash those 3 goons, Batman sees the bat signal in the sky and you have to traverse a series of buildings to reach Commissioner Gordon. The game tells you to use either the bat cable or the bat grapple, and I'm going to try the grapple first. I just hang from the sky. Okay, this is not going to accomplish anything. I'll just get off this and I'm dead. And I'll try the bat cable. Man, that animation when you throw the cable is so awkward, and I completely missed the building. Okay, I'm getting a little better. And I completely sailed right over the building. I'll try releasing this time instead of jump. And I flew right over the building again! Why does it have to show that awkward jumping animation every single time? Damn it! Ah! How is it even possible to make a game so broken that I am completely stuck after 5 minutes? Batman Dark Tomorrow has, hands down, not a doubt in my mind, the worst controls that I have ever seen. Oh, damn it. Okay, fine, the worst controls I've ever seen in a modern game. Every single thing that you try to do in this game feels awkward and wrong. Like the bat cable, for example. You have to have yourself properly aimed before you throw the cable because you can't aim the cable itself. If Batman's body is oriented at the wrong angle when you throw the cable, you fly off course and die. Getting yourself aimed at the right angle can be a big problem because of the fixed camera angle, but I have to wait before I can bitch about that. When you throw the grapple, the game cuts away to show you an animation of you throwing the grapple, and it does this every single time that you do anything in this game. When you're swinging on the bat cable, there is almost no way to turn yourself and swing in a different direction. If you don't jump off the cable, and you have to tell the game when you want to jump off, you'd naturally lose all of your momentum until you're just hanging there. The game tells you that you can start swinging again with the C-stick, but it's lying to you because moving the C-stick doesn't do squat. Then when you press the A button to jump off the cable, the game cuts to another animation of Batman doing some insane acrobatic shit and leaping way off the cable, and if you weren't perfectly lined up with your target, this leap can also send you flying off the building. All I want to do is throw a rope with a hook on the end of it so I can get to the next building. Why does that have to be a huge project? Even the mere act of walking is a huge pain in the ass in this game. But it's almost like the game doesn't know whether to turn in place or have Batman start moving straight and then loop around when you try to do something other than walk straight. And when the game decides to let you turn in a different direction, the game turns you around very slowly. The controls are so clunky that it feels like Batman is drunk. It's like a huge chore to do anything other than walk in a straight line. Oh wait, walking in a straight line is a huge pain in the ass too because of the game's awful camera. See, this is one of those games that, rather than having a regular third-person camera, has several fixed cameras in every room that it alternates between as you play. You play the entire game with a fixed camera, and every time that you walk through a room, the game shifts camera angles 3 or 4 times. Since your perspective completely shifts every few seconds, Batman starts walking in the wrong direction just about every time the camera changes. You can't even move without this game finding a way to annoy the hell out of you. I just don't get it. Fixed cameras like this have never been a staple of gaming. Why would they program their game like this? I'll tell you why, because fixed cameras are easier to program than a third-person camera, and they figured it would be a great way to cut a ton of corners. And unless you've played a game with a fixed camera like this, you have no idea how annoying these things can be. The frequent changes in the camera's angle are disorienting as hell. Every time the camera changes, you have to stop what you're doing and get your bearings. In fact, the camera changes are sometimes so drastic that I end up walking towards a place that I think I haven't been to yet, and I end up backtracking through the level. But the most annoying thing about the fixed camera is that you can't see things that you want to see. This is a game that encourages you to explore and look for items, but I can't look for items because the stupid camera won't point in the direction that I want it to point so that I can see the items that I'm supposed to be looking for. I've heard rumors that Dark Tomorrow was originally supposed to be an open-world sandbox game similar to Spider-Man 2, but the game underwent massive changes and delays after Microsoft expressed interest in releasing the game on the Xbox. I guess that would explain why they had to cut so many corners by stripping out controls and resorting to fixed cameras, because that would mean that at some point during the game's development they had to throw everything out and start from scratch. But that doesn't excuse the fact that this game's controls are so abysmal that the game borders on being unplayable. And yeah, the game was originally supposed to be an open-world sandbox. About 80% of the game takes place in strictly linear corridors, another set of corners that they cut with this piece of crap. I'm sorry about this rant, but I hate this game and I don't know what to yell about first. Okay, I'll try to get a little more coherent. I'll talk about the plot. That's usually a good way to add linearity to a review. After you cross the Valley of the Shadow of Death, by which I mean you cross those rooftops with the Batcable, a gang war breaks out between Black Mask and Scarface. You go after Black Mask's gang first, and all of his men are wearing masks. Does that mean that all of Scarface's men are holding dummies? Because that would be awesome. Now, supposedly, Black Mask and Scarface are both using advanced technology from a mysterious benefactor, but all of Black Mask's thugs appear to be using AK-47s, and all of Scarface's thugs appear to be using Tommy guns, so advanced technology, my brooding caped ass. Now, you've probably noticed this by now, and it bears mentioning, the cutscenes of this game are really good. All of the game's cutscenes are beautiful, even though most of them are just brief transitions that aren't worth watching. The cutscenes are pretty much the only good thing about this game because at least the cutscenes are nice to look at. Also, the game is based off the comic book incarnation of Batman, and it's kind of cool to see how the comics are translated into motion pictures. Plus, more time and effort went into every single cutscene than went into the game's actual gameplay. The only slight problem with the cutscenes is that the voice acting is hit or miss. Rather than getting Kevin Conroy to voice Batman like he always does, the developers instead hired some random voice actor and I think asked him to do a Kevin Conroy impression. The result is that a few of the cinematics are unintentionally hilarious because Batman really should be expressing some kind of emotion, and instead his voice never changes octaves. My favorite cutscene in the entire game is where Batman and Commissioner Gordon are discussing the gang war when an explosion goes off in the middle of the city, and neither Batman nor Gordon react with so much as mild surprise, concern, or alarm. It's like, yeah, hundreds of thousands of people are probably dead or injured. Typical Wednesday around here.
That came from Gazette Square.
But of course, there's more to a game than just the game's visuals. The string attached to a video game is that you can't just look at it, you have to actually play it. And the game's graphics and visual design aren't much solace when the gameplay is broken 5 ways from Sunday. Gather around, kids, it's time to talk about combat. Here's how combat works. You press the A button to punch, press the Y button to kick, press the X button to use gadgets, and press B to jump. And pressing B to jump sucks no matter what game it is. The main idea of the game's combat is that the enemies will go down in a few hits, but enemies only stay down for a few seconds unless you bat-cuff them. Every time you bat-cuff someone, the game cuts away to show a stupid 4-second animation that gets really annoying. But here's what sucks about the game's combat. All of Batman's attacks are simple little punches and kicks that only go in a straight line, which means that you can only fight off one person at a time. If you ever find yourself fighting 3 or so people at once, which you do through most of the game, all of the enemies dogpile you and your limited simple attacks leave you helpless. What's better is that most of the enemies can stun lock you because their attacks are so fast, which leaves you even more screwed than normal if more than one enemy comes to fight you at once. Even if you manage to knock out a bad guy, that bad guy will just get right back up again unless you bat cuff him, and because bat cuffing an enemy takes 4 seconds, you can't cuff anybody unless all of the enemies are done at the same time. And while you're trying to knock out all of the enemies so that you can start cuffing people, you get your ass kicked and take a ton of damage because your fighting skills are so pathetic. Put simply, the game's combat is completely broken. Whenever you fight a group of enemies, and most of the time you fight enemies in groups, the enemies will all team up and curb stomp you, and you're left completely helpless because your fighting moves all suck. But you know what's funny? Even though this game's combat is 3 different kinds of broken, I breezed through almost the entire game without ever getting stuck on a combat section. See, one of the game's gadgets is a medical kit that automatically replenishes your health if you have it equipped. All you have to do is go into a fight with the medical kit equipped and tank up damage until you manage to knock down all of the enemies. You go around bat cuffing guys until somebody gets back up, and you repeat this process until all of the enemies have been taken down. Eventually, your medical kit will run out and you'll get killed by the enemies, but if you die, you just respawn in the same room where you got killed because the game does a little quick save every time that you enter a room. You come back right where you left off with a full medical kit, and you can resume beating up people unabated. If you abuse these 2 exploits, the game's combat becomes completely trivial. What a paradox. The combat is completely broken, yet completely lacking in challenge because of a few simple exploits. And I think the game expects you to do this because there's a button on the controller that immediately equips the medical kit. It's like Kemco realized as they were making the game that the combat was completely unfair, and rather than fixing it, they decided to give the player a cheap way out of it. Every time that you die, you get to choose a new gadget loadout. You can choose to get extra batarangs, extra smoke bombs, or a bigger medical kit. It's a clever idea, but there's one problem. You will always pick the medical kit because batarangs and smoke bombs are completely useless. You can use batarangs to instantly knock down an enemy, but here's the thing. If there's only one enemy in the room, you don't need to use the batarangs, and if there's more than one enemy in the room, the batarangs aren't going to help you. Plus, force me to give a backhanded compliment to Batman Vengeance, at least that game let you move while aiming a gadget, which Dark Tomorrow doesn't. Batarangs can also be used to make barrels explode because, following traditional video game logic, any barrel, regardless of its contents, will violently explode if you throw something at it really hard. Oh, and smoke bombs, they don't do a squat. I got through the entire game without ever needing to use them, and the few times I tried to use them, nothing happened. But even though the batarangs and smoke bombs are, for all intents and purposes, completely useless, I still found myself using batarangs all the time, because when you're aiming a batarang, the game shifts to a first-person mode so that you can actually see what you're doing. Actually being able to look at stuff that you want to look at. What a novel idea! You can't move while using the batarangs or smoke bombs, but you can move while using the night vision goggles. Except if you're using the night vision goggles, your controls get really loose and slippery to where the game is even less playable than it was to begin with. The controls go from stumbling around like you're drunk to sliding around like you're on roller skates. And you're drunk. And by the way, the night vision goggles are completely vestigial to the game. Unless your TV is extra dark like mine to where you can't see shit, the night vision goggles have absolutely no function. And that's not even getting into how absolutely useless the grapple and cable are. Time. What the hell are you talking? We have to cut the video for time. But I'm not done. Time. There's still so much time. I'm only a third of the way. Time. Fine. Stay tuned for part 2, everyone. I'll be back soon to finish my autopsy of this abomination.